I parked across the street instead of pulling into the driveway. The engine clicked softly as it cooled down, but inside the car, it felt like the air was thick enough to drown in. I had no plan, no clear thought, just the weight of something ugly pressing against my ribs. I stared at the house, the lights in the upstairs bedroom still on, leaking a pale square of yellow onto the lawn. Amanda was supposed to be at her yoga class. Supposed to be finding herself, or whatever phrase she'd been using lately to explain her increasing absences. I should have been inside by now. I should have been setting the table for two, heating up the lasagna I made from scratch like some idiot in love. Instead, I was sitting here watching my own house like a stranger. 10 minutes passed. Maybe 15. I don't know. Time started bending, folding in on itself. Then a car I didn't recognize pulled into the driveway. Sleek. Silver. The kind of car a man drives when he wants people to know he's doing well without having to say it out loud. I saw her before I saw him. Amanda stepping out of the passenger's side, laughing too loud, brushing something invisible off her dress like she needed to look perfect before walking into my house. The man stayed behind the wheel. I couldn't see his face, but I saw her lean back in through the window, saying something low, something that made her tilt her head just a little too lovingly. Then she pulled away, smirking, and the car backed out and disappeared into the night. I didn't get out of the car. I didn't charge across the street like some TV drama hero. I waited. I needed to see what kind of lie she would tell me first. Amanda fumbled with her keys at the front door, humming to herself. I watched her silhouette disappear inside, the porch light dying a second later. That's when I made my move. I crossed the street without even feeling my legs move. I pushed open the door she forgot to lock and stepped inside, silent. The house smelled different. Not bad. Just wrong. Like a cologne that didn't belong to me was clinging to the air, soaking into the furniture. I climbed the stairs without turning on the lights. Each step felt like walking deeper into someone else's life. At the top, I stopped. The bedroom door was open, the lamp still on. Amanda stood by the bed, her back to me. She had a letter in her hand. A plain white envelope. It hadn't been there when she left. I had placed it myself, minutes after finding it tucked into the mailbox, no return address, just 5 chilling words written in jagged black ink. For the unfaithful wife. Amanda tore the envelope open with a sort of desperate carelessness, like she knew exactly what it was and had no time to pretend otherwise. Her body stiffened the moment she pulled the letter out. She didn't even have time to read it fully. A low, choked noise slipped from her mouth. I stepped into the room, closing the door behind me with a deliberate click. She spun around, eyes wide, cheeks flushed with something that wasn't guilt but pure panic. "Have a good yoga session?" I said, my voice so calm it startled even me. She blinked at me, mouth opening and closing. I almost admired how fast she recovered. Amanda was always quick. A survivalist. She dropped the letter like it burned her and plastered a brittle smile on her face. "You're being insane, Ethan," she said, shaking her head, already moving toward me like she could erase the last hour with a touch. "It's not what you think." I didn't move. I let her get close enough to smell the stranger's cologne still clinging to her hair. She reached for my hand, but I let it hang uselessly at my side. "Tell me, Amanda," I said, voice low. "What exactly do I think?" Her eyes darted to the letter on the bed, then back to me. For a heartbeat, I saw the real her calculating, weighing her options. Then she made her choice. "You're paranoid," she said smoothly. "You always have been. That's why I didn't tell you about Chase." The name hit me like a cold slap. Chase? Like I was supposed to know who that was. She saw the confusion and pounced. "He's just a friend, Ethan. We've been talking. That's it. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd overreact like you always do. Look at you sneaking around, spying on me." For a second, I almost laughed. It was so clean, so rehearsed, it was insulting. "Is Chase the reason your wedding ring ended up in your glove compartment last week?" I asked. The slap of realization across her face was delicious. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Tried again. "I take it off for yoga," she lied, the words so smooth they nearly slid past me. "In your car?" "Yes." "You haven't been to yoga in a month, Amanda." Silence fell between us like a dropped hammer. Her face shifted, hardened. Something ugly flickered in her eyes, a look I'd never seen before but instantly understood. It was the look of someone who realized they were caught and decided they didn't care. "You're boring, Ethan," she said finally, spitting the words like venom. "You work your little job, you cook your little dinners, and you think that's enough to keep me? God, you're so naive." The world tilted. I steadied myself against the doorframe, but her words kept coming, sharper now. "I don't owe you an explanation," she snapped. You think you're entitled to my life just because you bought me a ring? Grow up. I didn't recognize this woman anymore. Maybe I never really knew her at all. I bent down, picked up the letter and held it out to her. She stared at it like it was a weapon. Finish reading, I said. You missed the best part. Her hand trembled as she took it. For the first time that night, I saw something crack through her polished armor. Real fear. And it was only just beginning. Amanda's fingers trembled as she unfolded the letter fully. I watched her eyes skim over the words, saw her pupils widen like black holes ready to swallow her whole. For a moment, she didn't even breathe. Then she crushed the paper in her hand and turned on me, rage snapping across her face like a whip. Where did you get this? She demanded, voice low and dangerous. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The game shifted in that moment. It wasn't about hiding anymore. It wasn't even about explaining. It was about control, and she realized she was losing it fast. You think some stupid letter means anything? She barked. People are jealous, Ethan. They lie. They twist things because they can't stand seeing other people happy. She threw the crumpled paper at my chest. It bounced off and fell to the floor between us like a dying thing. You believe some stranger over your own wife? She sneered. I believe what I see, I said quietly. Amanda laughed. A brittle, cracked sound that had no humor in it. She turned away from me, pacing in tight, frantic circles. For a second, she looked almost feral, trapped. She kept brushing her hair back from her face, like she could wipe away the guilt smeared across her skin. I made one mistake, she hissed, spinning back to face me. One. And you're acting like I'm some monster. One mistake, I asked. So there was only Chase? No one else. She faltered, just for a heartbeat. But it was enough. A silence ballooned between us, heavy and full of things she wasn't saying. Amanda bit her lip, hard. A tick I had seen 1,000 times when she lied about little things. Forgetting to call, losing her keys, spending too much money. Now it was happening again, but the stakes were so much higher. You don't get to interrogate me, she said finally, her voice dropping into something colder. You're not perfect either. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Oh, please, enlighten me. What's my crime? Amanda? Working 2 jobs to pay for your dream boutique? Taking care of everything so you could find yourself without a deadline? You're suffocating, she shouted suddenly, voice breaking. You think you're this perfect husband, but you don't even see how dead you make me feel. There it was. The real reason. Not Chase. Not mistakes. Not a friend. She wasn't cheating because of some accident or weakness. She wanted to burn it all down because she enjoyed watching it crumble. I took a step closer. Amanda stiffened but stood her ground, chin tilted defiantly. I could see the tears gathering in her eyes, but they weren't regret. They were anger at being caught. You could have left, I said, my voice almost a whisper. You didn't have to lie. You didn't have to humiliate me. Her mouth twisted. Leave? And give up the house? The car? The safety net? She smiled then, a cruel, beautiful thing. You think I stayed because I loved you? The words hit harder than any slap. Each syllable carved something out of me, something I didn't even realize I still had. You stayed because it was easy, I said, more to myself than to her. Because I made your life comfortable. Amanda crossed her arms, tilting her head. She looked almost bored now, like the last mask had dropped and she no longer needed to perform. You're right, she said simply. Congratulations, Sherlock. It should have ended there. That should have been the final blow. But Amanda wasn't finished. She wanted to twist the knife. By the way, she added casually, like she was commenting on the weather, Chase isn't the only one. He's just the only one you're smart enough to figure out. She watched me, waiting for the breakdown, the screaming, the begging, waiting for me to prove her right one last time, that I was weak, pathetic, easy to destroy. But I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stared at her, really saw her for the first time, and felt the last tether between us snap. Amanda's smile wavered slightly. You don't get to be the victim here, Ethan, she said, A little too quickly, a little too loudly. "You're not some saint." I took another step forward. She backed up, instinctively, until her legs hit the edge of the bed. I didn't touch her. I didn't need to. "You're right," I said calmly. "I'm no saint. But you're not even human anymore." She flinched, and for a second, I thought she might cry. But instead, Amanda did what Amanda always did. She doubled down. "You'll never find anyone better than me," she spat, voice trembling with pure, naked fury. "You'll miss me every single day." I smiled then. Not a bitter smile, not an angry one. Just sad. Because for the first time I realized she was wrong. I wouldn't miss her. Not even for a second. I turned and walked out of the bedroom without looking back. Her voice followed me down the stairs, shrill and frantic, demanding I come back, demanding I listen. But I didn't. In my hand, I still held the letter. And at the bottom, in tight, scrawled handwriting, a second message waited. "You deserve to know everything. Meet me tomorrow night. I'll tell you the rest." The letter crumpled in my fist as I crossed the living room. I didn't even know where I was going at first. Just away from her. Away from the lie that used to be my marriage. The air outside hit me like a slap, cool and sharp, clearing the last of the fog from my head. Somewhere behind me, Amanda was still yelling. I caught bits and pieces as I slammed the door behind me. Accusations, curses, desperate pleas wrapped in venom. None of it touched me anymore. I got in the car without a plan. No idea where to go, just the instinct to move. The letter sat on the passenger seat, mocking me with its quiet weight. "Meet me tomorrow night." No signature. No hint. Nothing but that promise, or maybe it was a threat. I drove around aimlessly for what felt like hours. City lights blurring into meaningless streaks. Every red light, every turn, my mind kept spinning. Who left the letter? How did they know? Why now? I ended up in a dead-end parking lot behind an abandoned strip mall, staring at the cracked windshield like it could give me answers. I unfolded the letter again under the dome light, tracing the words with my thumb as if more would appear if I looked hard enough. "You deserve to know everything." It wasn't just about Amanda and Chase. It wasn't just about a fling. Whoever wrote this, they knew more. Something bigger was rotting underneath, and I was only seeing the surface. I sat there until the sun started to bleed into the sky, pale and sickly. Then I made a decision. I was going to that meeting. If someone wanted to show me the truth, I was ready to rip it out of the dark myself. The next day was a blur. I didn't go home, didn't call Amanda, didn't answer her increasingly frantic texts that swung wildly from apologies to threats. I needed distance. I booked a cheap motel on the edge of town, the kind of place where the carpets smell like mildew and the locks don't inspire confidence. It didn't matter. I wasn't planning to sleep anyway. All day I sat with the letter, rereading it, memorizing it, waiting for nightfall like a prisoner waiting for execution. The meeting spot was scribbled in faint pencil on the back. Riley's Diner. 9 p.m. Booth by the window. An old dive that had been there forever, the kind of place that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. I knew it well. Everyone did. At 8:45 p.m., I pulled into the parking lot. The neon sign buzzed and flickered above the door. Half the letters were burned out, making it look like a ghost of itself. Fitting. I went inside. The place was nearly empty. A couple of truckers at the counter. A waitress wiping down tables with the dead-eyed boredom of someone clocked out mentally hours ago. The booth by the window was empty except for a single cup of black coffee sitting across from an empty seat. Steam still curled from it. I slid into the booth, heart hammering harder than it should have. Every second stretched. Then, right at 9 p.m., the door jingled, and she walked in. Not Amanda. Not anyone I recognized. A woman, maybe late 20s, wearing a faded denim jacket and ripped jeans, hair pulled into a messy bun. Her face was sharp, pretty in a way that felt real, not polished. Her eyes were the kind you don't forget, cold, focused, scanning the room with military precision. When her gaze locked onto me, something in my chest twisted. She crossed the diner quickly, dropped into the seat across from me, and leaned forward like we were old conspirators. "You're Ethan," she said. Not a question. A statement. I nodded once. My throat was too dry to speak. She pushed a manila envelope across the table toward me. "You don't know me," she said. "But I know your wife." I stared at the envelope but didn't touch it. "Who are you?" I rasped out finally. She smiled then, small and humorless. "Someone who watched Amanda destroy more than just you." My stomach turned. 1,000 questions burned the back of my tongue. But she wasn't finished. "Your wife's been running a game for years," she said. "You're not the first. And if you're not careful, you won't be the last. She's not just cheating, Ethan. She's hunting." The words didn't make sense at first. I just stared at her, heart pounding in my ears. "You think Chase is the worst of it?" she said, almost laughing. "You don't even know the half." I forced my hand to move, dragged the envelope toward me. It felt heavier than it should. Inside was a stack of photos, receipts, printed emails. Each one a dagger. Amanda with men I didn't recognize, in bars, in hotel lobbies, in cars. Amanda smiling sweetly as she took cash from one man's hand while whispering something in his ear. Amanda living a second life behind my back so perfectly that it almost deserved admiration. I shoved the envelope away like it was burning me. The woman across from me didn't flinch. "She's not loyal to anyone," she said flatly. "Not even Chase. Not even herself." The room swayed for a second. I gripped the edge of the table. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. She paused then, tilting her head slightly, studying me. "Because you're the only one stupid enough to still think she can be saved," she said. "And because you deserve to see how deep the knife goes before you decide what you're going to do next." Before I could ask anything else, she stood up, tossing a few crumpled bills onto the table for her untouched coffee. "Good luck, Ethan," she said over her shoulder as she walked out into the night. I sat there long after she was gone, the envelope of my shattered life sitting between my hands, wondering how much more there was left to lose. And deep down I knew it. Amanda wasn't finished yet. Not even close. I left the diner without touching the envelope again. It stayed clutched under my arm like a dead weight, heavy enough to tilt my whole body. The night outside felt colder somehow, sharper against my skin, like even the air wanted to strip me raw. Driving back to the motel was a blur. The city rolled past me in sick colors, neon pinks, angry reds, dirty yellows, but none of it registered. All I could think about was Amanda. Amanda smiling. Amanda lying. Amanda counting on me to stay blind. In that dingy motel room, under the hum of a dying fluorescent bulb, I finally opened the envelope properly. Spread everything out on the bed. Photographs. Emails. Receipts. Messages. A whole secret life arranged before me like an autopsy table. At first, the photos were what hit the hardest: Amanda in bars, Amanda sliding into strange cars, Amanda laughing into the face of a man twice her age. Clutching a thick envelope of cash in one hand and a wedding ring dangling from the other like some cruel joke. But it wasn't the photos that broke me. It was the emails. She wasn't just sleeping with these men. She was planning it. Targeting them. Found another one she wrote in one thread to someone named Mara. Dumb, loyal, perfect. Should be easy to bleed out over time. She attached a photo of me. Smiling. Holding the keys to the house we bought together. The caption below the photo simply read, "Future ex-sponsor." I sat back against the moldy wall, feeling something inside me die quietly. I hadn't been her husband. I had been her project. Her investment. And the worst part? She wasn't even ashamed of it. I barely slept that night. When the sun finally dragged itself into the sky, I was already dressed, already moving. I needed answers. Not the half-truths Amanda threw at me like scraps. Real answers. I knew exactly where to find them. I pulled up outside the house around noon. The lawn looked too perfect. The porch was too clean. The flowers she used to ignore were suddenly blooming like some kind of sick joke. Amanda's car was there, the same car she drove to her yoga classes. My hands didn't shake when I unlocked the front door. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't heartbroken. I was something colder. Sharper. Inside, the house was too quiet. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, heading straight upstairs. The bedroom door was wide open this time, and Amanda was inside, sitting cross-legged on the bed like she was waiting for me. She didn't even look surprised. "So," she said, chewing her lip in mock innocence, "did you find what you were looking for?" No apology. No shame. Just boredom, like I was the last chore she had to cross off her list. I dropped the envelope onto the bed beside her. Her eyes flicked down to it, then back to me, eyebrows raised in a perfect arch. "You went digging," she said. "Congratulations." I didn't answer. I wanted to see if she would keep talking. She did. You know, Amanda said, leaning back on her palms, you were supposed to be different. Reliable. Safe. And you were, for a while. She shrugged as if it was out of her hands. But people like you get boring, Ethan. Eventually, you all do. I stepped closer. Not threatening. Just steady. Controlled. And what? You destroy everything because you're scared of being bored. Her smile curled lazily. No. I destroy things because it's fun. The words hit like ice water down my spine. Not because they were surprising, but because they weren't. She stood up, slow and graceful like a cat stretching after a nap. You think you're the first one who figured it out, she said, stepping closer to me now. You think you're the first one who tried to confront me? Cute. I saw it then, not fear, not guilt, but amusement. I was entertainment to her. A little drama to spice up her afternoon. You had options, Amanda, I said, my voice low. You could have just walked away. Why stay and ruin me piece by piece? She tilted her head, studying me like I was a particularly dull painting. Because it's easy, she whispered. Because you let me. There it was. The truth. Simple. Brutal. I nodded slowly, feeling something settle inside me. Not anymore, I said. Amanda laughed. Actually laughed. Right? So what now, Ethan? You gonna cry? Threaten me? Tell my parents? Run to the cops? No, I said calmly. I'm going to let you finish what you started. She blinked, confused for the first time. You wanted this life to burn down? I said. Fine. But you're going down with it. For a flicker of a second, real fear crossed her face. Just a flicker, but it was enough. I turned and walked out of the room without another word. Behind me, I heard her call my name once, sharp and uncertain. I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down. I had work to do. And Amanda had no idea what was coming next. I didn't answer Amanda's calls. Not when they came in rapid fire, not when they slowed to a trickle, not when the voicemails started stacking up, one after another, each one a slightly different flavor of desperation, angry, apologetic, seductive, pleading. It was all noise now. White noise I didn't even hear anymore. I wasn't interested in talking. I was interested in ending this properly. I spent the next day putting everything together. Not sloppily. Not emotionally. Methodically. Amanda had built her little empire on lies, on playing men against each other, always assuming she was the smartest person in the room. She thought she'd left no traces. She thought wrong. The receipts, the photos, the emails, they weren't just proof of betrayal. They were blueprints. Names. Dates. Money trails. By the time evening rolled around, I had enough evidence in a single flash drive to destroy her life 10 times over. The men she conned. The fake business expenses she filed under my name. The friends she manipulated into covering for her. It was all laid bare. But I wasn't going to the police. That would be too easy for her. I had something else in mind. Amanda was waiting for me when I pulled up to the house. Standing in the driveway like she was posing for a magazine cover, arms crossed, wearing a fake sadness that would have been convincing if I hadn't already seen the rot underneath. As I got out of the car, she tried a smile. Warm. Soft. Practiced. Ethan, she said, stepping forward like we were about to have a quiet heart-to-heart. Can we just talk? Please? I didn't say a word. I just handed her a folded sheet of paper. She unfolded it slowly, warily. As she read, her face changed, a flicker of confusion, then horror, then raw panic. It was a contract. A full confession. Written in her own words. Admitting everything, the affairs, the financial fraud, the manipulation. All she had to do was sign it. And if she didn't? Every piece of evidence I had would be sent to every man she had ever conned. To her parents. To Chase. To the business owners she lied to. To the IRS. Amanda looked up at me, her mouth trembling. You can't be serious, she whispered. Dead serious, I said, voice flat. You wanted a game, Amanda. Here's the final round. Her hands shook. The mask was crumbling fast now. And if I don't, she hissed. I leaned in close, so close she could smell the coldness on me. Then you lose everything, I said. Publicly. Loudly. Irreversibly. For the first time, Amanda's bravado broke completely. She tried to argue at first, tried to bluff, threaten, seduce, switching tactics like a drowning person trying to grab anything that floated. She cried. She screamed. She begged. But it didn't matter anymore. I stood there, unmoved, watching her unravel. Finally, with shaking hands, she grabbed the pen I offered her. She signed. Not out of guilt. Not out of regret. Out of pure, cold survival instinct. When it was done, I took the paper back, folded it neatly, and slipped it into my jacket. Amanda wiped at her eyes viciously, smearing her makeup across her face, looking less like a wife and more like a desperate criminal. So what now, she spat, voice raw and broken. You kick me out? You think you've won? I smiled, not out of joy, but something harder. No, Amanda, I said. You stay. She blinked, confused. You stay in this house. You live with the knowledge that you're trapped here until you can figure out what you really are without me cleaning up your mess. Her face twisted in horror. And when you're ready to leave? I added, turning back to the car, you'll leave with nothing. Not a dollar. Not a car. Not even your reputation. She staggered backward, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't find air. And until then, I said over my shoulder, you get to sit in the ruins you built. I got in the car and drove away, leaving her standing there, small and shaking under the fake porch light of the life she thought she controlled. Amanda had always believed she was the puppet master. She never realized she was just another broken thing waiting to fall apart the second someone finally let go of the strings. And I had let go. I thought Amanda would disappear quietly. I thought after signing the confession she'd shrink into the background like smoke fading from a fire that finally burned itself out. I underestimated her. 2 days after the confrontation in the driveway, she started the second act of her show. If she couldn't win by charm or rage, she'd win by chaos. It began with small things. The accidental destruction of my things, a broken laptop, a smashed coffee mug, mysteriously ruined documents. Then the fake tears whenever we crossed paths in the kitchen, dramatic sighs and whispered accusations under her breath, just loud enough for me to hear. You destroyed us, she hissed once as she passed me in the hallway, her shoulder bumping mine hard enough to almost knock the folder out of my hands. I ignored her. Every word, every act of petty sabotage just confirmed what I already knew. Amanda didn't know how to lose. She didn't even know how to live without an audience for her endless tragedies. When silence didn't work, she escalated. I came home one evening to find her sitting on the living room floor, the contents of her jewelry box scattered around her like broken bones. She looked up at me with wild, red-rimmed eyes, mascara streaked down her cheeks. You're punishing me, she said, voice shaking. You're loving this, aren't you? I stared at her, at the pieces of gold and silver glinting weakly under the lamplight. You punished yourself, I said quietly. I'm just letting you feel it for once. Amanda shrieked, a raw, animal sound, and hurled a framed photo across the room. It shattered against the wall, glass spraying across the floor. I didn't flinch. I just stepped over the shards and went upstairs. She wanted me to break, to scream, to fight, anything to give her back the drama she fed on. But I wasn't giving her that satisfaction. Not anymore. A week passed like that, a slow, ugly war neither of us acknowledged out loud. Amanda would oscillate between venom and fake apologies like a pendulum that swung harder each day. I didn't react. I didn't argue. I prepared. I closed joint accounts. Transferred the house into my name, only a move I'd set in motion the second she signed the confession. I started quietly packing up anything I actually cared about, my grandfather's watch, old photo albums, the rare books Amanda always hated, boxing them up in the garage without a word. Amanda watched all of it happen with a desperate kind of fury. You're pathetic, she spat at me one morning, arms crossed as she leaned in the doorway. You think you've won because you're cold? You think that makes you strong? I met her eyes for the first time in days. No, I said simply. Being cold is what makes me free. That shook her. For the first time, Amanda looked genuinely unsure of herself. Then came the night I caught her trying to pull her final trick. I came home late deliberately and heard rustling upstairs. Not the frantic, panicked kind of movement from before. Calculated. Sneaky. I moved up the staircase silently, stepping just enough into the shadows to watch her without being seen. Amanda was in the bedroom, crouched by the safe. The small one tucked in the back of our closet. The one she always ignored because she didn't know the code. She had a crowbar. I watched her jimmy the edge, teeth gritted in concentration. Sweat beaded at her hairline. She was so focused she didn't even hear me step behind her. Looking for a way out? I asked, voice so calm it sliced the air like a blade. Amanda yelped and dropped the crowbar, scrambling back on her hands like a cornered animal. Get out, she screamed, her voice shrill and cracking. You can't keep me prisoner. I laughed once, short and humorless. You're not a prisoner, Amanda, I said. You're exactly where you chose to be. Her face twisted into a mask of hatred I hadn't seen before, not during the fights, not during the confessions, something primal, something that made her look almost inhuman. You're going to regret this, she whispered, low and deadly. You think you're in control, but you're not. You're just another idiot who thinks he's smarter than me. I stepped closer until I was towering over her. No, Amanda, I said, voice dropping to a razor-thin edge. I don't think I'm smarter than you. I leaned in, close enough that she had to lean back. I know I am. She shoved past me, bolting out of the room, the door slamming so hard behind her that the frame rattled. I stood there alone, breathing steady. Amanda could scream. She could break things. She could plot and rage and sob herself hoarse. It didn't matter anymore, because the real game, the one she didn't even know she had entered, was already over. And I had already won. The next morning, the house was too quiet. I woke before sunrise, habit now, and listened. No footsteps, no slammed doors, no muffled curses from across the hall. Just a stillness that sat heavy on my chest. For a second, I almost thought Amanda had finally given up. That maybe, just maybe, she packed her things in the middle of the night and disappeared like a bad dream crawling back into the dark. But I knew her too well. Amanda didn't leave quietly. Amanda didn't lose quietly. I got dressed slowly, deliberately, knowing whatever was waiting downstairs wasn't going to be subtle. I didn't have to look far. The moment I stepped into the kitchen, I saw the chaos she left behind. Drawers yanked out, cabinets gutted, dishes smashed across the tile floor like she thought destroying things could somehow erase the reality she'd built for herself. The fridge was left open, the contents dumped into a smeared mess of milk and condiments across the floor. And sitting right there on the kitchen counter, like a cherry on top of the wreckage, was Amanda's wedding ring. She had placed it carefully, centered between two wine glasses. One knocked over, the other standing like a twisted joke. Pinned beneath the ring was a handwritten note in Amanda's precise, sharp script. It read simply, "You deserve to be alone." I stared at it for a long moment. No anger, no sadness, just a cold, final understanding. She wasn't trying to fix anything anymore. She wasn't even trying to hurt me now. She was trying to burn herself into my memory, to leave some scar so deep I'd never move on. But what Amanda didn't realize, or refuse to accept, was that she was already fading. The woman who once held all the oxygen in the room was now just another mistake I was stepping over. I pocketed the ring, folded the note, dropped them both into the trash without a second thought. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. At exactly noon, there was a knock at the door. 3 slow, heavy raps. Not Amanda's knock. I would have recognized that anywhere. This was something colder, more official. I opened the door to find a man standing there. Mid-30s, suit just rumpled enough to suggest long hours and little patience. He wasn't a cop. Not a lawyer either. He introduced himself simply, Caleb Pierce. Private investigator. My stomach twisted once, but I kept my face neutral. "I'm here about Amanda Walker," he said, voice clipped. Not Amanda Miller, her real last name, my last name. Amanda Walker, her maiden name. I nodded once, stepping aside to let him in. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, surrounded by the wreckage Amanda left behind. Caleb didn't seem to notice the mess. Or maybe he was used to it. "I won't waste your time," he said, pulling out a slim file from his briefcase and setting it on the table. "You're not the only one Amanda's tangled up with. There's others. Clients who've hired me to track her down, recover stolen property. In some cases, much worse." I stayed silent. Let him talk. He opened the file. Inside were photos. Not the same ones I had seen. These were uglier. Amanda forging signatures. Amanda emptying joint bank accounts. Amanda walking out of hotels with wallets and watches stuffed into her designer bag. Professional theft. Professional manipulation. And not just once. Over and over across 3 states. "You're lucky," Caleb said, meeting my eyes. "You caught it early." I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Early. If this was early, I didn't want to know what late looked like. "What do you want from me?" I asked. Caleb shrugged. "Nothing," he said. "Just figured you deserved to know the full picture. Most men don't. They stay blind until the damage is irreversible." He slid a small card across the table. "Just a number. No name. If she comes back," he said, standing. "Call me." I walked him to the door. Watched him drive away without a single glance back. The house was suffocating after he left. Every wall, every surface felt contaminated. I grabbed a trash bag and started throwing things out. Amanda's clothes, her jewelry, her letters, every picture that still had her smile in it. Not out of rage. Not out of sadness. Out of a deep, settled need to erase her. To cut her out like a tumor before she could rot anything else inside me. Hours passed like minutes. By the time I was finished, the only thing left of Amanda in that house was the faint smell of her perfume lingering in the closet, stubborn and sour. I stood there for a long time, breathing it in. Then I opened every window, letting the winter air scrape her ghost from the walls. Amanda had tried to destroy me. Amanda had failed. But what she had done, what she would never truly understand, was something much worse than breaking my heart. She had freed me. I thought that was it. I thought clearing her out of the house, clearing her out of my head, would be enough to end it. But Amanda wasn't built to leave anything clean behind. It was 2 nights later. Rain hammered against the windows in thick, heavy sheets, turning the world outside into a smeared mess of gray. I sat alone in the living room, the windows wide open, the last traces of her scent almost gone from the air. And then I heard it. A knock. Soft. Hesitant. Almost pitiful. For a second I didn't move. Part of me thought if I stayed still long enough it would go away. But it didn't. Another knock. More urgent this time. I got up slowly, every muscle tight with a calm, cold certainty about who would be standing there. I opened the door. Amanda stood on the porch, soaked to the bone. Her hair plastered to her face. Mascara streaking down her cheeks. Clutching a duffel bag in one hand like a soldier returning from a war she'd started and lost. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at me, eyes wide, mouth trembling. Like the villain in a story trying at the last second to rewrite her ending. "Ethan," she whispered, voice hoarse. "Please." I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms, letting the silence stretch between us until it became suffocating. "Please what?" I asked finally, voice so flat it didn't even sound like me. Amanda stepped forward, water dripping from her sleeves, leaving dark stains on the porch wood. "Let me come home," she said, her voice breaking in the middle. I made mistakes. I was scared. I didn't know how to fix it." She dropped the bag with a heavy, wet thud. "I have nowhere else to go." There it was. Not love. Not regret. Need. Amanda didn't come back because she loved me. She came back because she lost every other hand she tried to play. And now she stood here, desperate, cold, beaten, waiting for the one person she thought was too weak to shut the door in her face. I stared at her. At the woman who had once been everything to me. At the woman who had gutted my life with the precision of a surgeon and smiled while doing it. The rain poured harder, soaking her even more. Still, she waited. Waiting for me to save her one last time. I stepped back, just slightly. For a brief moment, hope flickered across her face. And then I shut the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't scream at her through the wood. I just closed it quietly. Firmly. And locked it. Through the thin barrier, I heard her sob. The kind of sob that comes when you realize, finally, that there's no second chance waiting on the other side. No do-over. No more lies to spin. Just the cold truth. And the sound of your own failure. I sat back down on the couch, ignoring the muffled cries from outside. This was her storm to stand in. Not mine. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Eventually, the crying stopped. When I looked outside again, Amanda was gone. Only the bag remained, slumped over like a corpse at the edge of the porch. I left it there. Amanda could have her memories, her regrets, her ruined life, all packed neatly into that soaked canvas shell. She could carry the weight of it wherever she went next. It wasn't mine to carry anymore. And for the first time in what felt like forever, the house, my house, was finally silent. Peaceful. Free. Amanda didn't just lose me. She lost the last part of herself that believed she could always win. And that, more than anything, was the ending she deserved. The bag sat on the porch for 3 days. Rain soaked it through. Then the sun came out, dried it into a heavy, sagging thing that stank of mildew and wasted time. I never touched it. Not once. Neighbors probably noticed it sitting there, but I didn't care. Let them wonder. Let them gossip. Let Amanda's ghost be someone else's story to dissect over coffee. On the 4th day, a trash pickup came through. I dragged the bag to the curb, dumped it there like the rest of the garbage, and watched the truck crush it without a second thought. There was something beautifully final about it, the way the mechanical jaws closed around that soggy mess, compacting it into something unrecognizable. Something no one could ever reclaim. Amanda was gone. Her fingerprints on my life erased. But cleaning up her wreckage wasn't the hard part. Living after it, that was the real work. The house felt too big now. Every room echoed with a weird, hollow peace. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't loneliness. It was space. Wide open, painful space. The kind of space that demands you rebuild something inside it or get swallowed whole. I started simple. I changed the locks, painted the walls, sold the furniture she picked out with her fake smiles and secret intentions. I donated the clothes she left behind to a charity bin without even checking the labels. Piece by piece, I stripped Amanda from my world like tearing off an old scab, raw underneath, but clean. There were hard nights, sure. Nights when the silence felt sharp enough to cut skin. Nights when I hated myself for not seeing her for what she was sooner. But even those nights passed. And each time they did, it got a little easier to breathe. It was about 2 weeks later when I got the call. A number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. Instinct told me to let it die on the line. But something made me pick up. It was her. Not Amanda. The woman from the diner. The one who handed me the envelope. The one who warned me that Amanda's trail was longer and darker than I ever imagined. "Meet me," she said. No introduction. No explanation. Then she hung up. No location. No time. Nothing. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she dialed me by accident, some leftover shard of the chaos Amanda left behind. But the next morning, taped to my front door, was a small, folded note. Same handwriting as the envelope from weeks ago. One last truth. Riley's Diner. Midnight. No signature. No threats. Just the same heavy, inevitable feeling that had followed me ever since Amanda's lies started unraveling. At 11:55 p.m. I pulled into the parking lot. Riley's Diner was closed, lights off, chairs stacked on tables. The rain had started again, softer this time, like the sky was exhaling. I waited. Exactly at midnight, headlights swept across the lot. Same battered black sedan. Same woman. She stepped out, pulling her jacket tighter against the rain, and slid into the passenger seat of my car without waiting for an invitation. I didn't say anything. Neither did she. She handed me another envelope, thicker this time. I opened it. Inside, copies of bank transfers, fake business registrations, offshore accounts. All tied to Amanda. All created under my name. All without my knowledge. Amanda hadn't just used me emotionally. She'd been setting me up to take the fall financially too: debts, fraud, tax evasion. If I hadn't cut her out when I did, if I hadn't forced her hand, it would have been me facing investigations. Me drowning in legal nightmares she crafted with a smile. I turned to the woman slowly. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. Her smile was cold. Not cruel. Just knowing. "Because you listened," she said simply. "Most men don't." She opened the door and stepped back into the rain before I could say another word. By the time I got out of the car, she was already gone, swallowed by the night. I sat there for a long time, the envelope resting on my lap. There was no anger now. No heartbreak. No confusion. Just a deep, almost savage satisfaction. Amanda thought she could walk through life burning everything behind her and never pay the price. But the truth always demands payment. And this time, the debt had come for her first. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to ruin her publicly. The truth was enough. The truth was already killing her more efficiently than anything I could ever do. She would spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder, wondering when the next shoe would drop. And me? I was free. I didn't go back to the house that night. I drove. Nowhere in particular, just far enough that the world I had known, the world Amanda had poisoned, felt like it belonged to someone else. The city blurred into highways, the highways into empty fields, the fields into deep black nothing. By the time the sun cracked over the horizon, bleeding dull orange into the clouds, I pulled over at a nameless rest stop surrounded by mist and silence. Killed the engine. Just sat there. Breathing. No Amanda. No chaos. No lies to peel off my skin. Just the sound of my own heartbeat, steady and stubborn, reminding me that I was still here. Still alive. Still mine. It wasn't peace exactly, not yet. Peace doesn't come that fast. Peace has to be earned. Built piece by piece, brick by brutal brick after the war ends. But it was something better. It was silence without fear. And that for now was enough. I eventually went back to the city. Not to the house. Not to the memories. I sold the house within a month. Took a loss on it. Didn't care. Amanda's ghosts didn't deserve walls to haunt. They deserved oblivion. I moved into a small apartment downtown, nothing fancy, just clean walls, big windows, and no echoes of betrayal clawing through the halls. I built a new life the same way you build a fire from scratch after a storm, slow, careful, patient. New friends. New routines. New everything. And through it all, Amanda stayed gone. Sometimes I wondered where she ended up. If the consequences finally swallowed her whole. If she found someone new to bleed dry. If she ever woke up in the middle of the night choking on the weight of her own choices. But I didn't chase those questions. I let them rot where they belonged in the past. Amanda didn't deserve my curiosity anymore. She didn't deserve my memory. If there's anything I learned from all of this, it's simple. Love isn't blind. Blindness is a choice. A comfortable little poison you drink sip by sip until you can't stand on your own anymore. Amanda didn't destroy me. I almost destroyed myself by pretending she was something she wasn't. I ignored the rot because it was easier to believe in a lie than to face the loneliness of the truth. I clung to the idea of her, not the reality. And that was my real mistake. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. You can't fix someone who enjoys the breaking. You can only walk away. Faster than you think you need to. Harder than your heart wants you to. And never ever look back. Because the second you start trying to make sense of their chaos, you lose. You get dragged into the wreckage they were born to create. And the only thing you end up saving is the version of yourself they tried so hard to destroy. I'm not who I was before Amanda. I'm something sharper now. Something harder. Something smarter. And in a strange, twisted way, I'm grateful. Because now I know what real love looks like. It's not fireworks. It's not grand gestures. It's not the burning rush that blinds you. It's something quieter. Something steady. Something honest. Something Amanda could never touch, not then, not now, not ever. And for the first time in a long, long time, I'm finally ready to find it. On my own terms. Without lies. Without fear. Without her.